So basically, like definition of commodity hardware has been changed a lot since beginning, like since Hadoop like days. So earlier we were saying we were having 16 gigs of RAM is like commodity hardware, but nowadays you will find even 512 down. Point like the replication, the data which we are storing in the Kafka cluster will be replicated, and if commodity hardware machines are going down, no problem, hard disk is failing or maybe some network card issue, so no problem, we can get this data from some other version. Okay, so is it the problem faced by others also? Like Sai just reported that there's a voice issue. So for others, is it okay?
Yeah, the voice got dropped. Even I had similar issue.
Okay, so when you say it is distributed, does it? Okay, so in case it happens again, then I can switch over to another internet connection. But for the time being, if it is manageable, then we can just move on. So just okay, just let me know. In case it is too much, it is like impacting a lot, just let me know. Yeah, okay, yeah. So there is a question, when you said it is distributed, does it have to go along the some Hadoop cluster as you service in the Hadoop cluster? So Pratik, we will be discussing this aspect when we are discussing the architecture of Kafka. Then we will be looking into it, like what does it mean, right? So just remind me once again, like when we are talking about Kafka distributed architecture, then we will see like how it is basically storing the data and everything. So distributed means like this particular log will be divided and conquered. So everywhere, like you will find. Can you please tell how distribution will take place? Yes, I'm coming to that, Ankit. Yeah, I will cover that part. So for the time being, just understand what is Kafka, and then I will come to why Kafka, and then I will come to architecture, right? So replicated is fine. This is like data is replicated across multiple machines, and then partition. Partition is like you are. This is like degree of parallelism. This determines degree of parallelism. So degree of parallelism means like some portion of data will be on one machine, some portion or the some portion of this data will be on another machine. So partitioned. This is like how the data will be distributed. So we will start looking into distribution once we move to architecture of Kafka. So for the time being, are we clear what is Kafka? Like anyone asks you like what is Kafka, so your answer should be like it is an event streaming platform. Initially it started as PubSub, but under the hood it is basically having a commit log. Now what is the log? What is a log? Because log, if I just show you, I will just close these and I will close this also, and I will go here. So what is a log? I must emphasize this thing that everyone should read this article, and this article is written in 2013 by Jay Krebs. You know, Jay Krebs is co-creator of Kafka, co-founder of Confluent. So Jay Krebs in 2013 released this article just before forming Confluent Company. Confluent Company was formed after that. So the log is not logging framework. The log is a structure, and this is how the structure first record. So producers are producing. Producers are always producing data events at the end of the log, and consumers are reading from this particular log. So this is like a sequenced log. So this is how it looks like. You can just do offline reading and understand this particular thing. You can, this is a blog on the LinkedIn, right? So you will find this log. So I would highly recommend you read this log to understand like how Kafka is working internally. But we will be discussing the interesting aspects of Kafka in this. So I can just share the URL. That's a very good point that you mentioned, Akshat. So I'm just sharing with everyone here, so that I'm sharing in the chat itself, so that you can read it offline. So don't read right now because your focus will shift. So I just sent to everyone. So now coming back here, so we got it, like what is Kafka. Now the question is why Kafka. So I'm just going there. Anyone wants to comment why Kafka? Why we are discussing Kafka today? Why it is so important these days? Very first reason.
Streaming.
Very good, Pratik. So IoT, very good. So I need like I just need 2 minutes to write down all these things. I will capture one by one. So real time processing, I'm writing real time processing and analysis. Like, so this has two things. One is KSQL and another thing is K-streams. IoT, yes. So IoT MQTT, yeah. So you have this MQTT protocol integration, so you can have MQTT proxy, so it understands that for this particular protocol you can integrate. Yeah, so you can actually prevent data loss in streaming. That means even achieving zero data loss is possible in Kafka. Okay, this is a very interesting topic, very detailed topic. ETL move streaming, ETL for decision, very good. So Rajesh, so basically earlier we were in batch ETL. Now this particular technology enables us to perform real-time ETL, real-time processing, or ETL actually has processing part, transformation part I already covered, extraction and loading part is through Kafka Connect, right? So that's why I've written a separate point here. Near real-time streaming process, quick find, fraud, transactions, even capturing. So yeah, that is fine. Yeah, analysis of real-time frauds. So you don't have to wait for the nightly batch to complete and tomorrow morning you will see the results that fraud happened. So that we don't want. We want the fraud should be captured then and there itself, and we can take necessary actions right away. Okay, so apart from that, high throughput, low latency, very nice. So I'm just writing it is high throughput, low latency, very good. Okay, what else? You know, this is a very detailed topic. Even though I'm writing high throughput, low latency, it has a lot of meaning. You have so many Kafka configurations. Like when we cover Kafka operations training, there we see the configuration through which you will achieve high throughput, how you will achieve low latency. Basically, you can tune your Kafka systems according to your business use cases. For some use case you need high throughputs, for another use case you need low latency. So basically this is very important, Lakshay. Even though we are saying theoretically high throughput, low latency, but actually how does it work internally? Which all components are there? Which all threads are there working on the broker cluster, right? So how many queues are there on the broker cluster? I'm talking about internal queues of Kafka. So those things are basically covered in separately, but right now I'm just giving you some hints that there is a lot of meaning to the things that you are writing here. So highly scalable messaging system, yeah. So it's very scalable, very horizontally scalable and highly scalable. It can deal with high velocity data. In one of our projects we were basically ingesting 1 terabyte data per hour. So another one is, another comment that I got is smooth integration of multitude of Kafka like sources, and this is Kafka Connect. So when we say Kafka Connect, you can use this for connecting external systems with Kafka without even writing single line of code, without writing code. So this is very powerful. Apart from that, Akshat, I just captured this point. Narinder, you mentioned distributed can handle multiple producer consumer, very good. So Narinder, this is also very nice point. It is not basically like coupled with its own like consumers. Lot of systems, they require jar to be registered, then only that particular system will be able to understand the consumer. So the process in Kafka is not like that. Trade-off, yes, there is a trade-off between throughput and latency. You are very right. Khushi, scalable, fault tolerant. So this is and fault tolerant. I'm just writing one single point, fault tolerant. Actually, these are two different points, but right now it's fine. So provide connectors to import, export data. So I've already captured. So this is fine. Open source. This is fine. Track all events and changes that data goes through. Not end of the day and in the batch. Very good. So we already captured this, Rajesh. Apart from that, anything else that comes to your mind? Why Kafka? So Kafka is very good when we talk about long-term storage of data. So yeah, event streaming is happening, enterprise messaging system. So here PubSub is there, right? So you are basically sending and receiving messages. So you can say that yeah, it's a PubSub. So I'm so long-time storage of data. That means like since it is fault tolerant, so you can buffer your data. I will give you one example. In one of our projects, what we were doing, we were having separate Kafka cluster. This was 2015. Nowadays, things have changed. Like the newer architectures are very different. So I will see, like if time permits, I can talk about that. But for the time, we just understand. We were having like Spark cluster here, Kafka cluster here. So we were integrating Spark cluster with Kafka cluster. So basically, this is with HDFS. Spark was running. So you know like this is a cluster which is storing my big data, right? So this stores big data, and this big data is like indicating volume of data. This is volume of data, and this Kafka cluster is ingesting lot of data. This is maybe, let's say source is sending us data, and this source is sending 1 terabyte data per hour, and this data is actually like, this is called velocity of data. This is velocity of data, and this is volume of data. So when velocity goes up or goes down, then you have to scale up or scale down. You can actually scale up, scale down Kafka clusters. So this is a beauty of using like this is you can say 2015 architecture, but nowadays 2018 19 we implement in a different manner. Like after 2018 2019 we started implementing in a different manner, like because there are other components of Kafka Connect, we started making use of that. But for the time being, just understand this concept, like when data is flowing through Kafka cluster and data is coming at a very fast pace. Let's say your administrator planned for 365 terabyte per year, 365 petabyte terabyte per year, let's say. So your administrator planned for the volume, but today is festival, today is basically, let's say, Christmas, or maybe some lot of transactions are happening, and because of that, what is happening, like you are getting more velocity of data. So your administrator did not plan for velocity, the administrator planned for your volume. So administrator calculated this thing, like every day I'm going to receive 1 terabyte data like one in one day, so 1 terabyte one day. But today I'm getting 20 terabyte per day. Today the velocity is very high, 20 times the existing the expected load. So then Kafka cluster, you can scale up, you can add more machines in Kafka cluster rather than adding compute intensive machines in Spark cluster. You can save a lot of cost. You can reduce, you can scale up, scale down Kafka cluster rather than impacting the Spark cluster. This is one use case. Apart from that, you can also basically buffer your data in Kafka cluster. Let's say your Spark cluster is down, maybe because of some issues, or maybe some maintenance is happening. Usually we have other concepts of rolling upgrades and everything, but for the timing, just assume that you are not able to send data to Kafka Spark cluster. Then you can buffer your data in Kafka cluster, and later on when Spark cluster will comes up, and it is like it will start reading data from Kafka from where it left off, like last time when it went down, then it can just resume from where it left, right? So these are some of the advantages, but there are many other advantages of using this. Now, why Kafka? Another reason, exactly one semantic. So this is the very first messaging system, exactly one semantic. So you can actually ensure that the message will be processed once and only once in Kafka. So that is another interesting thing that Kafka provides. Why Kafka? Kafka has KSQL DB. So this KSQL DB is basically new addition to Kafka ecosystem. And what is this? So you have pull queries also. Basically, right now, I have not explained push queries or pull queries, but for the timing, just one line I will give you, like a very quick introduction. You know what is a batch query and streaming query? So I will just write down. There is one called batch query, another one called streaming query. Batch query is, for example, you fire RDBMS query or Hive query, Impala query, Spark SQL query. So these are batch queries. So basically you have fixed data. On fixed data, you fire the query. You have SQL or HQL or IQL. So you have different queries. You have this query, you fire this on fixed data, you get the result. You get the result, right? So maybe you are doing select star from products where product ID greater than 100. Very simple. So you get the results. This is okay. But if you talk about streaming query means KSQL, structured streaming in Spark, structured streaming in Spark. So there are many frameworks which will give you these kind of things. So understand this thing, like streaming query means like Twitter is streaming data. It is always on. It will never stop. 24/7 data will always be coming. So this KSQL will keep on consuming the data, keep on like display results. Let's say you are finding how many times people tweeted about corona, right? So you want to find out that you are displaying corona in India. Maybe you are showing like how many times people tweeted corona in USA, how many times people tweeted about corona. So you are getting these kind of results, and these results are continuously updated. So this is like, here query terminates, but here query never terminates. Query never terminates because data is always coming. Terminates. So this is streaming query. This is batch query. So streaming query, we already saw one example, like we have this KSQL. So in KSQL, this is called push queries. Push query. This is called pull queries, right? So you are pulling. But now in KSQL DB, KSQL DB, new thing has been added, which is called pull queries, which is like you can get point in time results. So you can fire the statement, like you can fire the SQL and then you can get point in time results from the RocksDB. So basically this KSQL DB introduced this concept, which was not there in KSQL earlier. So KSQL initially started with push queries only, but KSQL DB introduced a concept of pull queries in the real-time world, real-time streaming world. So any questions or comments? Are we clear? What is the batch query? What is the streaming query? What is the pull query? And what is the push query? So if you are good, then I can just move on. Okay, so what is the backend DB of? So it uses RocksDB for stateful streaming. Yeah, so under the hood, it is actually working on Kafka only. So it will create its own internal topics on Kafka cluster. But it also, if you're doing stateful streaming, then it makes use of RocksDB. So these are the two main things involved when we talk about KSQL. So any other question apart from this? Are we good till now? Can I move back to the discussion of why, if it is event driven, why we say queries keep on running? Yeah, so you know, events are always happening. So we are saying data, like everything is an event, and even batch is also an event. In Kafka, we say that if you are at, let's say, getting a data in your OLAP or maybe in some database, so there is a job running, so you are getting the data. So we are saying that that particular thing, the data that we got is also like streaming only, but it is coming at an ad hoc interval. So everything in this world, that's basically a bold claim from Confluent, and the bold claim is everything in this world is an event. Whatever is happening in this world is an event. So why queries are running? So basically the events are always happening. Twitter tweets are always happening. Twitter tweet is an event. Log file line is an event. So these events are always happening. So these queries are always basically listening for these events. Can't we say query to be fired at some interval? No, it's not like that. You know, this is called Kappa architecture. We did not start with that Kappa architecture because that is like another, if you go into that, but I would highly recommend you read about Kappa architecture. So Kappa architecture says that like 24/7 your connectors are running, Kafka connectors are running, and they are basically listening for the data. So it's like very much real time. So there are some connectors which are like you know, there is again Kafka Connect is also pull, like it is based on consumer API. So now if we go into that detail, then it will be like difficult to cover this particular topic, but just understand couple of pointers. Like Kafka connectors, they are running 24/7. They have consumer API based on polling, and polling also happening at a regular interval. It's not like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but it is much more real time than 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So under the hood, it is working on consumer API of Kafka. So Pratik, hope it answers your question. In case you have any further question, we can discuss. Does it? I will just wait Pratik to confirm this thing. Are we good, Pratik? Have you got it? Okay. So in case something is not clear, you know, this is the first session of Kafka. If I start going into the consumer API and other things, then other people will be like disconnected from what we are discussing. So that's why I'm just avoiding that discussion. But I already gave you the answer. Maybe that should be fine, and then we can discuss it further in the next few sessions. Yeah. So KSQLDB is okay. We got it. Like this is a new addition to Kafka cluster and the Kafka ecosystem, I should say. And then there are so many other interesting things, like we have REST-based proxy. So this REST-based proxy for non-Java client. So Kafka you can work with non-Java clients also, and you can do a lot of administration related overhead task through REST-based proxy. So you know, like Kafka, there are, if you give me half an hour more, I can talk about why Kafka in much more detail, but for the time being, I think we are good. We need to cover many other things, so I will just move on. Just understand what is the difference between Kafka and Confluent Kafka. Now question is, what is the difference between Kafka and Confluent Kafka? Can someone tell me, like, why Confluent Kafka? What is the difference? before I show something.
Confluent
Kafka versus
gives
Confluent
enterprise
Kafka.
support.
Yeah, very good. What else? Apart from that, what else? Enterprise support. More polished Kafka in with Confluent. Okay, very nice. So I'm just writing here. Confluent Kafka is basically enterprise distribution of Kafka. You know, just like we have Spark. Spark Databricks provides distribution of Spark. Similarly, Kafka distribution is provided by. So it will do fully managed. So that is basically Confluent Cloud. So provides fully managed distribution of Kafka, that is Confluent Cloud. I'm just writing that is CC, Confluent Cloud specific distribution. Apart from that, cloud, and okay, so that is Confluent Cloud. Okay, Kafka as a service. Okay, more polished. Okay, so this is they have done integration testing, penetration testing, load testing, So a lot of things are actually stabilized. This will ensure that you have stable version of Kafka, and all the components of Kafka are working together. They are like not having any version compatibility related issues. So Confluent Kafka takes care of that part. It provides support for Kafka. It provides trainings for Kafka. Like we are an official partner of Confluent, so there are so many detailed trainings of Confluent, specifically Confluent Ops, wherein you will understand so many internal details of Kafka. There are 150 plus properties. How do we tune Kafka clusters? That is very interesting. So this is Confluent Kafka. This is training. Apart from that, it also offers certification. So I had one webinar on certification. So that is fine, but it provides a lot of tools, additional tools. So these are enterprise tools, and these enterprise tools, some are open source, like you can. Another one is like only in the enterprise distribution. So these are paid. So I should say these tools. There are two versions of these tools. One is open source. Another one is paid. So I will just show you. Okay, so what is okay? So what is Kafka Confluent Ops? So there is a I will just write down. When we say Kafka, so specifically Kafka trainings. So one area is development. Another area is administration. So when I am saying ops, I am referring to administration right now. Apart from that, it also has case streams, real-time streaming, KSQL related training. Apart from that, there is real advanced Kafka training, which is for production issues, monitoring, and many troubleshooting and many things. So this is advanced Kafka. These are the 4 different trainings from Confluent Kafka. So there is another question who provides management and monitoring options. So that is tool, and this tool is Confluent Control Center, CCC. This Confluent Control Center, and this one is Confluent Cloud. So don't get confused between these two. So CCC. So this is fine. Like I will just show you now how Confluent Kafka is different from Kafka now. So this is okay. Are we clear? What is Confluent Kafka? How it is different from normal Kafka? Normal security setup in Kafka. Yeah. So security setup, there are many areas in Kafka. One is authentication, authorization, auditing, encryption, right? So these things are there. Role-based access control. So I will just go here, and then I will show you. There are so many enterprise tools which will allow you to do these things like that. So what is the difference? You can see. So Kafka is in the middle. If you see, this one is open source Kafka. Around this, you have Confluent open source. So these open source tools are like no, you don't have to pay to anyone, so you can get these tools free of cost. So you have some connectors from Confluent. There's Confluent Hub where you can get the connectors, and then there are some tools, development tools like Maven plugin is there, and then there are interesting Maven. This one is like this client tools means Maven client tools are there, libraries are there through which you can connect. You can interact with Kafka cluster. Apart from that, schema registry, you can actually manage your schema. This is very interesting area, because if you are talking about Kafka, it's not just about producers and consumers. It's not just about sending or receiving messages. So a lot of time it happens that you are sending message, receiving message, but you don't take care of schema, then it will be a problem. So this is a very, very important component in Kafka. And if you ignore it, then you will have to pay the price later on when your production having issues, or you will start finding issues, because schema registry, it's a very detailed topic, like how do we manage schema in a Kafka cluster, because plain Kafka, vanilla Kafka does not give you that option to manage your schema. So here you can manage your schema. Yeah, this is open source. And then there is another one which is called Confluent Enterprise, and this Confluent Enterprise is like giving you some additional tools. This replicator tool is for when you have multiple data centers of Kafka. Let's say we have prod, we have DR. So you want to ensure that the prod and DR, they are in sync. If prod goes down, then DR actually having the same kind of data and metadata. So these things are taken care by replicators. So you have to replicate data at different data centers. Auto data balancer. So it is just ensuring that the Kafka cluster is having equal load. There are no hotspots. So this is again related to architecture. So I will be moving towards architecture, then it will start making more sense. But for the time being, just understand that we want to uniformly distribute load among different machines in the Kafka cluster. This one, Confluent Control Center. So as Khushi mentioned, this thing like provides management and monitoring options. So this is one of the tools for basically doing this thing like monitoring and administration of Kafka. So hope you got some idea like which thing is part of Confluent open source, which particular projects are part of Confluent enterprise. So in case you are planning to go for Confluent, like you can just reach out to sales team to know the pricing and everything, because we are not like the right person to comment on that. But for the timing, just understand like these are the things that you will find in Apache Kafka. Apache Kafka, you can see there is this part, but Confluent open source adding more values, and then here Confluent Cloud, you can actually add more there. So this is fine. So like every cloud provider will have its own way of implementing this thing like Kafka. Some people have different distribution, like you will find Event Hub is there in Azure, and similarly Amazon also having this MSK. So it is also for basically it's a managed service. MSK is a managed service of Kafka. So here you will find that you can actually populate your data lake through Kafka APIs, and you can stream data into. So it's basically very similar to Kafka, but you will, if you're in AWS environment and you want native integration with AWS products, then you would prefer MSK, right? But if you are in like other cloud providers, then you have to see like whether they are giving some native distribution or not in other. So if you are installing, like Confluent Kafka is also like Confluent Cloud also gives you integration with AWS and Google Cloud and Azure. So you can choose that option also. So you have many ways. You can just see like which specific areas that you are looking for, what is important to you, because like when we talk about the products that offered by Confluent Kafka, you will find these products are very useful when you are having your own data centers. But if you are not having your own data centers, you will see this is useful when you are having your own data center replicator. This particular auto data balancer is very useful when you are managing your own cluster. But in case you are doing it on cloud, hardly bother about it, then you may consider Confluent Cloud or AWS MSK. Yeah. So in AWS MSK is very useful when you want to integrate with AWS security, AWS native products, end-to-end pipelines you want to set up. So you can consider that. So that will be a good option. Yeah. So this is fine. Now I'm moving on to the Kafka architecture, right? But I just want to show you like which all companies use Kafka. So there are more than 40% of Fortune 500 companies using Kafka. Apart from that, you will find like this is number is now not 35% but 40%, and you will find in different travel domain more 6 out of top 10, 7 out of top 10 global banks using Kafka, insurance domain 8 out of 10, and telecom domain 9 out of 10 are using Kafka. Okay, so streaming platform, this is another interesting use case of Kafka. So Audi car, Volkswagen is making use of Kafka. So they have data centers in Germany, and there are a lot of sensors installed in the cars. So these sensors are sending data to the data centers, and these sensors are basically for doing predictive maintenance of the car if there is something going to happen in future. So it can recommend that when is the service due. Apart from that, it can also do a lot of interesting things. It can give you traffic alerts, like it can detect obstacles on the way. Yeah, so yes, so this is IoT with Kafka integration real time. So this is done by Audi already. So they have this thing in production. So they are making use of Kafka a lot in their architecture. So they have this personalization also. They can send this data to insurance companies, and insurance company can determine whether this particular person is actually a fast driver, rash driver, and then accordingly they can charge the insurance accordingly. So if most companies are on cloud, do they use native Kafka or do build? Okay, so yeah, so you will find like the companies who are on cloud. So now Confluent Cloud is also gaining a lot of traction because Confluent Cloud has added a lot of interesting new features into Kafka. So that is one thing. Whenever there is new development happening, so it will be available in Confluent Cloud as like a very first thing. So that will always stay ahead of other distributions of Kafka. So if you are using native cloud, so in Google Cloud also you have Confluent Cloud integration. So if you go to Google Cloud Console, you will find that Confluent Cloud is already there. So the companies which are making use of their cloud, they will see Confluent Cloud is always available as one of the options. And second thing is some companies like AWS has this MSK, but some companies they don't have, like you know, like Azure, you will not find this managed distribution of Kafka. You will have Event Hub. So you need to compare, you need to see, because you know some people start comparing Cloud PubSub with Kafka, but that is not correct, because Cloud PubSub is having different use cases and Kafka has different use cases. So that's why you need to see like which particular use case you want to solve through Kafka, rather than basically like just choosing one out of these two, right? So it is very important that you know what is the difference between Kafka and Kinesis. You will find like Kinesis is very good when it comes to like you know, like Kafka core, then Kinesis is good. But when it comes to Kafka streams, like then Kinesis analytics is there. And actually the concepts are very similar, but you know, major difference is like Kinesis will store data for short period of time, right? So you cannot store data for infinite period of time. This is one of the major differences. But in Kafka, you can store data for like maybe in, or theoretically speaking, for infinite duration. Like if you are having Kafka, so you can configure like retention policy. You can say that I want to store my data for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. But in Kinesis, you will find that you have only maximum you can store for seven days. Similarly, in Cloud PubSub also, you will find the data can be stored for 7 days maximum. So in cloud providers, when they are storing your data, they cannot store for infinite duration. So this is well, like one of the major differences. Apart from that, we will also find like whether it is serverless or not. So these are some of the interesting things that you will start comparing what cloud provider has, because Cloud PubSub you will find that is serverless, right? So similarly, you will find in other cloud providers Event Hub. So these are similar, but they are not same. There are a lot of differences. You will find some frameworks they give pull versus push, but Kafka from consumer perspective it is pull only. So you will start comparing these things, and then you will say, okay, which one is making more sense to my use case, right? Depending on, you will choose. Yeah, Shishir, is it okay? Got it. Great. So now it's fine. Like I will just move on. Now, should we discuss the Kafka architecture, because these are all use cases that you can always read offline. So we have an
Sir,
exercise also. Mhm.
one doubt.
Yeah, Revan.
So, sir, if we want to store the data for more than 7 days, like for example in AWS, then do we just shift the data into some like Redshift or S3, or is there no option of doing that also?
You know, S3 has a different use cases. Kafka has a different use cases.
No,
So
sir, for
it's not
example,
like,
using Kinesis, and as you said that we can only store it
yeah,
for 7 days, not more than that. So, if we want
yeah.
to store the data for more than 7 days,
Yeah, so that is one option. Like you have S3, but you have, there are so many other NoSQL databases on AWS that you can choose depending on the application access patterns. Depending on that, you can choose. S3 is one option, but there are many other options. So
yeah,
choosing
okay.
which storage technology depends, like it's like a 3 hours discussion. I'm just thinking aloud, like it's a very detailed topic. You need to basically see like what kind of things that you will be doing with the data. Depending on, you can choose like where you want to put the data. So S3 is one option, but there are many other options, yeah, right? So you have Redshift also, yeah. So you have other
DynamoDB.
NoSQL, yeah, DynamoDB, and many are there. So this is
Okay.
fine. Like this is exploring Apache Kafka, so we can actually explore it. But right now I will just start with the Kafka architecture, because that will give you some good understanding, like how Apache Kafka actually works internally to some extent, and then we will switch to hands-on if time permits. So let's go to Kafka architecture. So when we say Kafka architecture, so there is a cluster here. So let's say we have a cluster, and in this cluster, I will just make it this. Okay. So in this cluster, we have different machines, and these machines are having, these are my machines in Kafka cluster, and these machines are having daemons running. So this one is another cluster, which is Zookeeper cluster. This one is, so this one is producer, sorry. So this one is producer. This one is consumer. So consumers, I will represent in a different manner, but right now I'm making it simple. So but there can be many consumers, so there can be many producers. So here we have Zookeeper. So this is Zookeeper. So this is Zookeeper cluster. What is Zookeeper? Can someone comment on that? Like, what's the role of Zookeeper? This is Kafka cluster. Have you heard about Zookeeper before? Orchestration tool? No, Manish, it's not orchestration. Ankit, to check the services, it's not for monitoring. Okay, monitoring Kafka cluster, I will talk about that. It's there. Yeah, coordination, very good. Yeah, coordination tool. Okay, synchronization, it can store shared data. In general, Zookeeper. Integration, not integration. So I will show you something interesting about Zookeeper. So just see, this is Hadoop Zoo. So in Zoo, we have only one person, but rest are all animals. Like you will see, I will make it bigger. There is only one Zookeeper. Others are all here, other projects of Zookeeper. So basically, Zookeeper is controlling all the animals. So it is for distributed synchronization, distributed coordination. It can store shared data in Kafka cluster. So there are many roles of Zookeeper, but for the time being, I will just write down roles of Zookeeper in a separate whiteboard discussion. With regards to Kafka, why Zookeeper for Kafka? So I'm just writing why Zookeeper for Kafka. Why can't we work with just Kafka cluster? Zookeeper is, it stores metadata. For example, topic. Now what is topic we did not discuss, we'll see. Topic, partition, and many other things. Apart from that, Zookeeper tracks live brokers. It keeps track of live brokers. It stores quota, right? So how much you can read, how much you can write. So yeah, so another one is primary node. So that is Akshat HDFS concept, but in Kafka it's different. It makes Kafka services fault tolerant, highly available. Yes, yeah. So I will be specific. Service discovery. Service discovery. You can say it's for knowing which all brokers are actually available here. In other architectures, you will find it is specifically for service discovery. Receives heartbeat from the cluster. So receives heartbeats from the brokers. So it stores ACLs, access control list. like which topic we can read, which topic we can write. Similarly, it has dynamic configurations, dynamic configuration stores, dynamic configurations. That means you don't have to restart your cluster. You can change the configuration and then it can actually come into effect, right? So similarly, it has many other things like it stores controller node. So many things are controller info. So these are some of the responsibilities. So let's see. I will be discussing the heartbeat concept, and I will also be discussing this tracking. This is through heartbeat. So there is a regular heartbeat going, and based on that, it will get to know which brokers are live. Yeah. So leader election is done by controller node. Yeah. So this is having leader information, but leader election is done by this controller node is doing it. Akul. So I will talk about that, but right now just understand like so Akul, this is not doing leader election as such, but it has the leader information. Actual leader election will be done by the controller node, and which one is the controller node? So it will have this information. Yeah. So now I will go back and I will see here we have so many machines, and here we have broker daemon. So broker daemon, broker daemon, broker daemon. So I am writing these are broker, actually these are daemons, broker daemons. It's not like broker machine. So many people use it interchangeably, broker machines, but actually these are machines, commodity hardware, and on which broker daemon is running. So you can say this is a broker daemon running on these machines. And these broker daemons are sending heartbeat to Zookeeper forum. So this heartbeat is going regular interval to Zookeeper. So it is keeping track of the brokers which are part of the cluster. Now producers, they produce messages, consumers, they pull data. So consumers, they pull data, and producer publish. This is publish messages, and consumers poll messages, poll or pull messages. So now you will find producers are producing messages. So that means like there are a lot of interesting details. So I will come to that. But for the timing, we are clear with the Zookeeper responsibility. Brokers, they store log. You know, log, we were saying log is distributed. Distributed log means some portion of log will be here, some portion of log will be here, some portion of the log will be here. So I want to explain few terms before we move on. So first of all, I will explain what is Kafka topic, and then I will also be explaining partition, and then we will see the log segment and other things. So there is another term which is called log segment. So let me write like this so that there is clear relationship that I can depict. So there is a very interesting topic which is called data modeling in Kafka. So that is very detailed topic. So just for the time being, understand this thing. Star means many. This one is star means many. So that means I will remove this. It both means many. So let's say in partition, topic is logical name, and Zookeeper stores this information. Yeah. So unique name of Kafka streams, topic. Yeah. So there we have other data structure like KStream, KSQL, KStream and KTable. So we have this logical name. Partition is basically a directory, physical directory, and this partition has log segments and there are files. So these are files on the cluster, and you can see where my data is stored. So this will be stored in Zookeeper, the logical name, and partition is a directory. So which partition is associated with which topic, where it is stored. So this is all metadata stored in Zookeeper. Log segment is basically having two types. These are files. One will be active log segment. Another one will be passive log segment. Active log segment is available for writes. Producers write messages. They write messages in active log segment, and once this active log segment is full, or maybe you can define the time interval, you can define, there are three things that you can define. You can define based on events, you can define based on time, you can define based on size. So it will roll over to passive, and passive will have it's like, let's say after 1 gigs you are let's say you are writing to a Kafka cluster, and you are writing a lot of data in Kafka partition. So in that partition, let's say you have data more than 1 gigs. So 1 gigs, after 1 gigs, it will roll over to a new file. So the old file, let's say this is old file, let's say old file, and this old file is 1 gigs. So newer file, this is passive now. The newer file, new file, which is active, this one is active now because this is already complete. This file is rolled over to a new file. So this active producers will be writing to new file, and there will be multiple old files because we are writing on Kafka cluster for maybe, let's say, 3 years. So there are so many files created in that particular directory, partition directory, and this particular file will be available for writes. Now there are many other interesting concepts around this, but for the timing, just understand topic. What is the topic? Topic is like a newspaper name. So Kafka is like a newspaper. Newspaper means like you subscribe to a newspaper, and then publisher will publish this newspaper. So you, as a subscriber, you will start getting the feed. So you can say in your family you must be receiving, let's say not during Corona, but otherwise you must have been receiving your newspapers. So newspaper, maybe Times of India or maybe New York Times, you are getting the newspaper. So that newspaper you subscribe, and then you are getting that. So this is a logical name. Newspaper name is a logical name. And the pages in the newspaper are partitions. So page of newspaper, there can be multiple pages. So I'll just rub this, and then I will say page, there can be multiple pages. So if you have more pages, you can do more parallel. This is degree of parallelism. So you have more pages, then more family members can read, more consumers can read. So that's the concept. Apart from that, within page you have different sections. So different sections in the page, and sections are like log segments. And within section you will have lines. Lines are like messages. So log segments have messages. These lines are messages. So real world analogy is like this. Newspaper has pages, pages have sections, sections has lines. So that's how Kafka stores the data, right? So any questions till now? Can I show you on the architecture? How does it look like when we talk about? Can we have multiple partitions in the same machine? Yes, this is there. That's why Kafka is there. I will talk about that now. So any other question? I will be delving deeper into Gyaninder's question before I move on. I just want to take up more questions around this. If there are no questions, I will just move to the architecture part.
Hello.
Yeah.
So Kafka topic is a partition in multiple partitions. Suppose partition 1, partition 2, and each partition are stored in one machine. That I am saying that one partition at one machine.
One partition will be. Should I draw this thing and how it stores? Will that be okay? Or I will explain through
Yes,
this. Your question will be answered with this slide, right? If it is not answered, then you can ask again, right? So just see how it is working. So you can see this is Kafka cluster. In Kafka cluster, we have this broker 1, broker 2, broker 3, broker 4, let's say. These are 4 brokers. And in each broker, we have partitions. So this partition, can you see this topic? Partition 0, partition 1, partition 2. So let's say we have 3 partitions. And for this particular topic, we have 3 partitions. For this particular topic, we have 3 partitions. Right? So does it help, like the question that you asked, like in one machine we can have multiple partitions, and one topic can have multiple partitions distributed all across. Was that Gyaninder who asked this question just now? Can you please tell me your name so that? Yes. Okay. So there was another question. More sinks would require more partitions, right? Yes. So if you have more family members, then you need more parallelism so that more parallel consumptions can happen. So if let's say your newspaper is having only 2 pages, your family members are 4, 2 will be sitting idle. They will be waiting. They will not be getting any newspaper page to read. Akshat, are we clear? Next question is, Can we read from passive logs? Yes, we can read. That's the concept. Basically, consumers can read from the passive log, but we cannot write. We cannot write into passive log. Rajesh, are we okay? And then is it only for the active log segment? What like reading can happen from passive also. Writing will happen only in the active. Mir, there is a question. That means I will just pick a question from Akshat first before I start another discussion. So that means multiple partitions of a single topic could contain same redundant data. So Akshat, basically we have a concept called replication and another concept called partition. So there are two concepts. If you remember, when I started, I said there is replication and there is where is it? Yeah. So there is replication and there is partition. So Akshat, to answer your question, partitions are different from replication. So if you, let's say I say that I need 5 partitions for this topic, but I need replication factor 2. So there will be total 10 partitions all across. So it will be distributed different machines. So does it answer your question, Akshat? And then I will move to Meev's question in the meantime. Can message be said as a block? So message is not a block actually. Block in HDFS is like 128 MB, or maybe you can configure the size. So that will have like that is unit of data. So block is unit of data in HDFS and degree of parallelism in HDFS. Here we call it partition. Here we call it partition. That is degree of parallelism in Kafka. It's not 100% block because partition is a directory. So does it help me, like what is the distinction between HDFS block versus the degree of parallelism in Kafka? Degree of parallelism in Kafka is partition. Yeah, so I'm okay. So so Akshat, are you good? Because before I pick up question from Shishir or Ankit. Okay, so Shishir, does Kafka store data in HDFS? No, Shishir. Kafka architecture is completely different. So that's why I'm saying Kafka is a very detailed topic. So right now we are having some time, so we will just discuss whatever we can do. But I'm just sharing with you. No, HDFS file system is different. Kafka stores data in a different manner, and that is basically it is storing data in the form of partitions and the log segments, and these log segments are distributed all across the cluster. Shishir. Then there is another question from Ankit. How to decide partition? Sorry, I got this. Okay. So how to decide partition? So what is the question, like how to decide number of partitions, or Ankit, if you can elaborate your question, then number of partitions. So this is again related to data modeling in Kafka. So when I say data modeling in Kafka, that means we have to consider many factors when you are choosing number of partitions. So this is fine. Like Akshat, this is one point. But there are at least like 10 or 15 points. So if I go into that discussion, it will take half an hour more. So I'm just giving you some hints. Ankit, like a number of partitions, they depend on number of sinks. That means number of consumers. Definitely, if you have more consumers, then you should have more number of partitions. This is one factor. Apart from that, you will also see the throughput requirements. Like your publishers are publishing and consumers are consuming. What is the throughput requirement? So let's say your publishers are publishing or producer is publishing very fast pace, but consumers are not able to catch up. Then you should have more number of partitions. At the same time, you also have to see like how many partitions you can have on each broker, right? So there are limits to that. In one broker, you cannot have more than 2,000. It is not recommended to have more than 2,000 partitions. Similarly, you will also see many other factors when you are choosing number. There are formulas actually. This is all data driven, so you can actually decide number of partitions based on those formulas, right? So this is a very detailed topic, but I'm assuming Ankit, you got some idea. Like one answer Akshat already mentioned, like number of sinks, which is number of consumers, but other pointers I provided you. Okay, so there is another comment based on data, not just data, Ankit, but also like throughput, like what is the parallelism like you want to achieve, what is the non-functional requirements you want to achieve. Yeah, so based on that you will decide. And then there are limits at the broker level, there are limits overall in the cluster, how many partitions can exist. Like these are like practical limits, the challenges that we start facing. any good reason for run multiple broker daemons on a single machine? No good reason. It is not recommended for production. In production, you will always be running different daemons, like different brokers on different machines. So there is another question: publishers write to the particular partition or topic. So publisher, very good. Basically, do all partitions of a given topic have the same data or different? Very good. So who is Asu, so that I can take your name, proper name, and then we can discuss. So I will just add here, let's say producer, producing data to Kafka topic, Kafka cluster. So publisher write data to a particular party. So there is a producer record. So in Java terms, if you're so your name, I am not sure, your name is written as Asus, maybe your mobile phone like provider, like the model name, but you can, if you can just rename yourself, then it will be great, or you can just tell me your name. So producer record is there, that is like a Java object, and in producer record Nishtha. Okay, so Nishtha, basically we have topic name, we have partition number, and we have partition number, we have key, we have value. So you have so many things, but these things in the producer record, when you send the data, I'm assuming Nishtha you are from Java background. In case not, then let me know. So this is a producer record. This is like Java class, this kind of object we send when we send a message. So this is mandatory. M means mandatory. This is mandatory. This is optional. This is optional. So when we are sending data from producer to Kafka cluster, so topic name and value are mandatory, and these are two optional things. So when we say that we are sending data, let's say I don't know, because you know, like partitions are like internal details of Kafka. Your producer is, let's say, IoT sensor. IoT sensor hardly bothers, hardly cares about what is a partition in Kafka. IoT sensor will just know that I need to publish data to this particular topic. Topic name is, let's say, maybe aggregate value, or maybe you can say that particular data, let's say sensor topic. Let's say I'm giving any name, sensor topic. Yeah. So partition and key, these are optional. You don't have to specify this, but either of the two may require. So this is optional. These two are optional, but topic name is mandatory. So when you have to send data, producer has to send data to Kafka, then sensor topic and the value, like whatever value you want to send. Let's say temperature reading. So this is temperature reading. IoT sensor is sending that temperature reading is important, and the topic to which we have to publish. So this is mandatory, but other two are optional. So, but anyhow, you have this option to specify partition number also where you want to send. In case you want to have lower level control, you want more control over the data distribution in Kafka cluster, then you can choose like the partition ID, also partition number where you want to send data. What is a key? So key, this is a message, and message will have two parts. One is key, another value, and then this is header. So this part is content, and content has two parts, key and value. So let's say I'm a customer, and being a customer, this is my customer ID as key, and this value is customer, right? So let's say I'm an Airtel customer, or my customer ID is 157. This is my customer ID. So when I'm sending data, this is 157, and then this is my customer object as value. So in the message you have, this is the key and this is the value in the message, and headers are there. Okay, I thought it is some Kafka specific term. So it is, yes, it's Kafka message specific term because this is the structure of the message in Kafka. So that's why we are saying this is a key and value, and based on key, a lot of things change in Kafka cluster. So just to verify, different partitions have different data. Yeah, yes and no, Nishtha. So basically, if you are talking about replication is, let's say 1. When you are creating a topic, replication 1, and partition 3, partition 4, let's say partition 4. So you are creating a topic with replication 1, partition 4, then answer is yes. It will have unique data, different data in different partitions. But if you say I have a topic, but I need replication 2, partition 4, then there is a duplication. Or ideally in production you will have this kind of scenario only, like you will have at least 3 partition, 3 replica. Can we, so this is having duplicate data also, then total 8 partitions here. Can we give partition and key both at the same time while publishing? Yes, no problem, you can always give. Okay, any other question apart from that? This is all very, very detailed. Actually, I just touched the surface. There are many other things like how things are working right now. But before we move on, are we clear? I will switch back to the architecture diagram. Are we clear to some extent producer side? Okay, so now I will move on to the slides and let's see what exactly we covered. I'll just close this and I will go here. So we have broker, and brokers has partitions, and partitions they store log segment. If you remember, I mentioned log segment because in one partition we can have multiple files, and these files they can be actually active or inactive. So these are rolling files. You have more partitions, you can have more parallelism. Yeah. Okay, so this is log, and the log structure, when we started this session I already explained what is a log. Log is ordered immutable sequence of messages. So data source, like the producer is writing data, consumers are consuming data. So this is how it looks like, Akshat. So this is the structure. Logically, if we have key based hash function, sending force partition may break the sequence logic at the consumer level. Okay, so when you say sending means you are talking about producer. So you are producing, let's say I'm going back here. So you are producing your data, right? So when you are producing your data, I'm writing here, you are producing your data, and this is, let's say this is key base. So by default it is hash partitioner. So hash partitioner means it will do key modulo hash code, and then key dot hash code, and then modulo number of partitions. Key dot hash code modulo number of partitions. So it will do like this. When it is doing like this, it means that this key dot hash code is giving you some number, and it is number of partitions. Let's say I have 4 partitions, so it will always give me value between 0 to 3. So that means based on the key it will determine where this message will go, right? So this is the background for everyone, so that everyone knows like what is the role of key. So if you know that if you have a key in the producer record, then based on this formula hash partitioner, it will determine where I have to send this particular message, on which partition it will go. Now we are having key based hash partitioner. I got it, so I just captured that. Sending forced partition. So here we are not forcing the partition, because if you do that, then you are not following the rule, and the rule is like hash partitioner, because based on hash partitioner you want to distribute. So if you are doing it manually, if you are just forcing it, or you are writing your own custom partitioner, then it's a different logic. So consumers will not be able to see all the, let's say in Kafka cluster we have one, this is one machine, let's say this is another machine, and this machine, let's say I will just change the color so that you can see easily. This is one machine, this is another machine, this machine and this machine, this is partition 0 and this is partition 1. So ideally my, let's say 157 modulo, let's say hash code is 157 modulo 4. So when I do that, so maybe let's say remainder is, let's say 1, let's say for example remainder I get is 1. So 1 means my data will go here. So by default, if I use hash partitioner, based on hash partitioner, this is 0, this is 1, so this data 157 will go here. But now you are forcing it to go to 0. You are saying that send this message to 0, then my 157 will go to there, the second message. right? So you are changing the logic, then the consumers which are consuming, let's say this is a consumer, this is consumer, consumer 1, consumer 2. So consumers are consuming. So consumer 1 will be getting this 157 and consumer 2 will be getting consumer 157. So that means same consumer is not getting the data for the same customer, then it will be a problem to actually process the data properly. So hope this makes sense. In case others are not clear, because some people.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to ask in the first question. So if I, let's say by mistake, some bug was there in the code and we are sending the key and the partition both. So what will be preferred in that case? Because ideally the logic should be making the partition out of the key using hash code. But
Yeah. So
since we are sending both, since we are sending both, it may break the logic. So
yeah.
what
So
does the
then
logic at Kafka cluster or the Kafka libraries are there? What is preferred, the partition or the key?
Partition. So that's why I
Okay,
indicated
got
the
it.
same thing here. So you are breaking the logic. Yeah. So you mentioned key is optional. If key is not mentioned, how it is determined? So it is round robin. So if you don't mention key, so round robin means like let's say I will write down few things. This is producer side behavior. So no key in message. Key in message. So if there is no key in the message, then it will go to round robin. It will follow round robin. So that means first message will go to first partition, second message will go to second partition, third message will go to first part. So if you have, let's say, partition 0, partition 1, partition 2, so message 0 goes here, message 1 goes here, message 2 goes here, message 3 goes here, message 4 goes here, round robin manner. So that's how the data will be distributed, right? But if you have key in the message, then by default it is hash partitioner. But if you are very specific that I want to send data to this particular partition, then this will not work. And then you can also write your custom partitioner. So in the certification exam, you can expect questions around custom partitioner related things and then how producer side is working. Okay, so I hope this is fine. I just wanted to check, can I move back to the architecture, or you have any other question around the producer side? There are many other things in the producer side that I did not discuss. How Kafka maintains a sequence of messages. So sequence of, this is a very good point, Manish. Actually, what happens basically, Kafka maintains sequence at the partition level. So I'm just writing Kafka maintains sequence at partition level, not at global level, global or topic level. So what does it mean? It means that when data is distributed across different machines on the cluster, then it will basically be stored in different partitions. So so sequence, so when we say key is in the message, the hash partition, so it will always send the same key to the same partition. So it is already ordered by times. So it's a distributed commit log. So I did not define what is commit, but just understand it's a distributed log. So in the log, distributed log, so we have partition. So each partition is receiving the data, and there where data is getting stored, distributed in a distributed manner, in a sequenced manner, at the partition level, not at the global level. That's a limitation of Kafka. So how do we overcome that limitation? You integrate Spark streaming and sort by key. You can sort the data globally overall. Like if you want 1 terabyte data should be sorted by key. So you cannot do that in Kafka. You have to integrate with Spark streaming and then use this API sort by key, and then it will cause a lot of shuffling in Spark, and then it will give you ordered messages. So Manish, does it help? Okay, so any other question apart from that? Will we cover consumer group today? So that will be, so we can see like I'm just checking, is it okay to continue right now? Because usually my meetups are 1.5 hours, but right now it is, what is the overhead drawback of Kafka versus Confident Kafka? Okay, so the problem with basic vanilla Kafka is you don't manage the schema. So if you don't use schema registry, so you know, if you are just using Kafka, then you are sending garbage in, garbage out sometimes. Like if you don't just, let's say you are having Apache Kafka. So Apache Kafka, you are publishing data, and here you are consuming data. So you are publishing, you are consuming. So let's say by mistake I published wrong data, I published bad data to Kafka, then consumers will start breaking, it will start failing, right? So this is the problem. Like vanilla Kafka has this problem that garbage in, you send the garbage, you will get garbage out, no one will be there to control this. But in Confluent Kafka you have schema registry. Even schema registry is an open source component. Cloudera also introduced schema registry, and they have written a lot of blogs also in schema registry, but that was a very complicated way of achieving that. But Confluent schema registry was much more cleaner. So they see this problem very early when Confluent started. So they introduced this component in the very beginning. So schema registry actually takes care of this part. So when you have schema registry in the, let's say, along with vanilla Kafka, let's say we have Confluent. So then it will, before you publish anything, it will validate schema here, validates, this validation of schema is happening. And if the schema is matching, it is fine, then only it will be able to publish data to Kafka, and then only it is going to work. Otherwise, it will throw error that the data that you are sending to Kafka cluster does not conform to the schema requirements, so it will not be published. Yeah, so that is one answer. But there are many other areas in which Confluent Kafka actually has advantages over vanilla Kafka. For example, auto data balancer. If you are using vanilla Kafka, you will be using reassign partition tool, and that is very clumsy as an administrator. So it will make your life very easy when it comes to replicating data across multiple data centers or monitoring your Kafka clusters. So that's basically it. So Sai, does it answer your question, or you have any further question around this? Okay, so any other question before we switch to other discussions? So this is fine, we just saw it. So this is how it looks like. We have producers, we have consumers. Partitions are stored on brokers. Some partitions are unique, some partitions are replicated. So that's how it. Any issues with Kafka service in HTTP? So Kafka as a service in HTTP Hortonworks. Now CDP, we should say CDF, Cloudera data flow now, because that is bundled as part of Cloudera. New after merger of Hortonworks and Cloudera, then this thing has changed. So like Confluent Kafka has its own advantages, in the sense like it is coming from the same company where Kafka is created. So any new development happening in Kafka will always be like happening in Confluent first, then in any other distribution, because CDF, I'm not saying HTTP Hortonworks old, so I'm talking about Cloudera, which is basically having CDF Cloudera data flow. So there in that distribution you will find like Kafka is there, and Kafka is basically having a particular version, but that may not be having those features that Confluent Kafka is offering. Definitely enterprise tools you will not find there. They will have their own schema version of schema registry. They will have own version of their own UI, right? So is it wise, does it help Column? Is it wise to have same zookeeper for Kafka and Ambari? So you can use same zookeeper. Like in YouTube you will find I have posted some how to install Confluent Kafka. I will just go there. If I go here, you will find last week we released this course, and this particular course is a crash course in big data, not a very detailed one, because here it was the intention of this course was to get everyone started with big data. So here you will, this course I have done all whiteboarding. Everything you will find in this course is like the whiteboarding, that the way I'm doing here. So you will find in this course it's all whiteboarding. Here you will find NiFi and Kafka related examples. So here are some differences, some architecture and other things. But this is like a high level course covered in 9 hours, because I had to cover a lot of technologies. So when I'm covering so many technologies, HDFS high availability also requires zookeeper, Hive also requires zookeeper, Kafka also requires zookeeper. So you can choose whether you want zookeeper from HDP or you can choose Zookeeper from Confluent Kafka. So when like initially we are installing Confluent Kafka, because HBase is having a dependency on Zookeeper, because Zookeeper stores location of meta table in HBase. So we installed Confluent Kafka and we started utilizing Zookeeper of Confluent Kafka in HBase. That's how I followed this approach in this particular course. But in case like you have HDP, you can use Zookeeper provided by HDP, and you can leverage that Zookeeper in your Kafka also. So no problem, right? So it's just like because Zookeeper is nothing but storing the metadata. I shown you a lot of things like what is the role of Zookeeper. So Zookeeper will be taking care of all these things. Yeah. Okay. So you can choose any of these approaches. The approach depend on the support. So if you are using Confluent Zookeeper and you are going to Hortonworks and raising a ticket that you are having issues in the environment because of Zookeeper, then Confluent will say, or the Cloudera will say, or let's say Cloudera support, and Cloudera support will say this is Confluent problem. We will not look into this. So that's why you need to basically see like who will be supporting you. But anyhow, Zookeeper has responsibilities across multiple projects, so you can just share that Zookeeper with multiple projects. Right? So any other question apart from that? So I will go back now. Yeah. How about memory concerns with regards to Kafka components? Yeah. So this is again a very, so that's why I'm saying that the Confluent trainings that we offer, we already cover these things. I will just go to the website also. So here, if you go to professional courses, if you go to big data, and here, or you can just go to Confluent. This is the official training from Confluent. So here you will find we have Confluent Ops training, and Confluent Ops training we cover this memory concerns, performance, how do we optimize it. So there is one training on advanced skills on for optimizing Apache Kafka. This is also very interesting training. Like this one is Confluent operations training for Kafka. This is administration. Yeah. So these things are covered there. Yeah. So I'm going back here. This is fine. So this is answering question for a lot of people, like those people who are not very clear how Kafka is replicating, how different partitions are being shown. So I will wait for 1 minute. You can okay, so I'm moving on further. So this is producers. Producers can be in different languages. It can be in Java, Python, Go, .NET, JMS. So there are so many languages. So these are tools like through which you can produce messages. So do you want to see some demo related to Kafka, or can just checking with everyone so that we know like which direction we move for next 10-15 minutes? Or you have any other questions, so I can just wait for those questions. So here. So are you referring to Gautam? Are you referring to this particular memory? So this data, I will assume that you are asking about this. So this data will go into the page cache of the Kafka cluster. So this Kafka worker machine. So the broker is the JVM. Yeah. So I will just do some coding quickly. So this is a JVM. So here we have page cache. Page cache, page cache, page cache. So this, let's say particular machine is 4 gigs. In the JVM, you would be giving, let's say 4 gigs memory, but you have 60 gigs. 60 gigs out of that, some will be utilized by operating system. Let's say 10 gigs you give to operating system. 50 gigs are still left, 50 gigs. So 50 gigs is basically can be utilized by page cache. So here the data can be stored by the producer. Whenever we are publishing, it goes into the page cache, and consumers can read data from the page cache itself. Yeah. So hope this answers the question, like where the data going. It is in the page cache, it is in the memory. Yeah. So I will add one more. So producer always produce to leader of a partition. Partition can be of two types. One is leader, another one is follower. So leader, there will be only one leader, but there can be multiple followers. For example, replication is 3. Then leader is 1, 2 are follower, because total are 3. For each partition, there will be, let's say, 3 replication vectors. So there will be 1 leader and 2 followers. So leader partition, producer always produce to leader, producer always, producer always produce to leader, and consumer always consume, consumers always consume from leader. So this is like a leader is the interacting with all the clients like producer, consumer. So producer always produce, or producer always produce to leader. Now, how we will get to know? Question is how producer or consumer will know who is leader partition. So you will get to know this thing. Sorry, how does it know the leader? Yes, so that's the question. So how does it know the leader? So I will go back to the whiteboard. So when you have to publish the message to Kafka cluster, so you cannot publish. The first step is step number 1. Step number 1. Step number 1 is to get the leader. Step number 2 is send publish message to the leader. This is step number 2. This is 2-step process. So first step is to get the leader. For getting the leader, you will use Bootstrap server, because any server can be a Bootstrap server. And these Bootstrap server like this, and this when you give ---- Bootstrap, then you are basically asking Kafka to give the leader information from the Bootstrap server. And you know, leader information is stored in Zookeeper, and this information is actually synchronized with all the brokers. So that means any Kafka broker can be a Bootstrap server, and usually we give multiple, so that if broker is down, then you can always get this leader information from any of the broker in the cluster. So is it clear, Polam? Hope this webinar was useful to you. So in case you liked it, please write on LinkedIn about this webinar, so that in case you are not having background about big data technology, so we have an e-learning course. If you have e-learning, like so there is a video recording, like you can actually have this e-learning course from our website. There is a coupon also, like if you apply that coupon, you will get more than 60% discount. So that is DataCouch_big data, right? So that will be helpful. Apart from that, yeah, so then which path certification do you recommend? Recording of the webinar, I am still discussing with Confluent. If they approve, then only we will be able to upload recording on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, if we don't get the approval, then I will not be able to upload it on the YouTube channel, Muthu. Okay, so apart from that, so there is a question, which path certification do you recommend for non-Java background? But that's okay. So if you are coming from non-Java background, then you can consider Cloudera Data Analyst certification, CCA 159. So I was the very first person globally that I cleared that certification, CCA 159. That was like when it was released, I cleared that certification. So I would recommend that, Rajesh, to you. Apart from that, you can also consider Google data. Nowadays, Google related certifications are also popular. So you can go for Google Data Engineer certification. So that is also there. We have a Udemy practice test for that. So no problem, Shishir. So it was my pleasure, Gyanendra. No problem. For streaming ETL, so for streaming ETL, you can do through KStreams and KSQL. So I would recommend you go for, now the KSQL is there. So right now there is no certification as such for KSQL or structured streaming, but you can ramp up on KSQL. That will be very useful to you, Rajesh, because if you're coming from SQL background. Can you have more session on big data in upcoming days? Yeah, we can do that. And we did a couple of sessions earlier, and the recordings are available on our YouTube channel. Can we have one more session on Snowflake? Yeah, we can plan for that, Ankit. Right now it is not yet scheduled, so next week and onwards I will be busy in a couple of things. So anyhow, we'll plan out something. Yeah. So if possible, please share whiteboard screenshots. Sure, we can do that. So no problem, Sheetal. So please do write your feedback on LinkedIn, because based on that only, your feedback only, more people can attend this session. So thank you so much for joining the session. So if you have any questions, my email address I can share. So the name of the YouTube channel is Data Couch. So here you will go, you will find. You can message me if you have any questions. You can message me on LinkedIn, or you can have my email address is bhavuk@datacouch.io. Yeah. So I'm done from my side. Thanks, Akshat. Thank you, Gautam. Thanks, Ankit. Thanks, Lakshay. Thank you, Shishir. Thanks, Sai. Thanks, Matu. Thanks, Mir. Okay. Thanks, Sunita. Thanks, Narendra. Thank you, Veer. Thanks, Lakshay. Thanks, Column.